Hello and welcome to the Commission on Ability Assistance. Today is Wednesday, May 5, and we are going to be hosting our May 2021 meeting for the Commission on Ability Assistance. This meeting is being provided virtually and it is being taped by North Andover CAM. By being on this meeting, you are consenting to the fact that you will be taped by North Andover CAM and that everything and anything you say in this meeting will become public record. Does everybody here agree to that? And I'd like you to state your name and that you agree. I will start with Phyllis Jones, Chair. I agree.
Stacy Leibowitz, Secretary. I agree.
Jeffrey French, I agree.
Linda Byers, Special Education Liaison, I agree.
Mr. Beckley, we can't hear you. Mr. Michaelek, do you want to jump in where Mr. Beckley can't audio
Sure.
right?
John Mikulak from Niche Engineering. I agree.
Okay, and we will give Mr. Beckley an opportunity to put his electronics together. Oh, Mr. Beckley is stated in a chat function that he agrees. I'd really appreciate it. Could you turn your mic on by any chance, just so we could get that, because the chat function will not be seen for public. All right, Mr. Beckley, if you can get your audio feature to work properly, if you could just let me know and I'll give you the ability to verbally consent, but I will state that on the record you sent us a written consent.
Hear me now?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you. Okay, so we've called the meeting to order. First up on the agenda, North Andover Commission Committee on Disability and Inclusion. Stacy, you're our go-to on that. Anything to report?
Not much. We received an email last week from them, from the chair of the committee. Again, just talking about they're working with some consultants around some of the issues that had happened a few months ago in the very last meeting. I think back in December was the very last one. And they're, I think, just trying to figure out really what the next steps are. So we're getting like these monthly emails, but not much else is going on. No other meetings have been scheduled yet. So they have, I just pulled up the email. They're working with these consultants from Visions who have been interviewing a few members of the committee. I have not been asked to be interviewed, but I suspect they're probably working with some of the people who had some concerns from the last meeting because, as I'd mentioned a few meetings back, that there was some upheaval in one of the meetings.
Yeah.
So following the interviews, they're going to create a report for Denise, the chair, and have some recommendations on how to move forward. The report will be theme-based versus identifying what members had made particular statements. So this was done very intentionally, obviously, to allow members to speak candidly and protect their identity. Otherwise, nothing else is really happening at this point. Let me see. The best news is that we can meet in groups of 9 without posting the meeting publicly. So there's some details around this, but we still don't have a date for another meeting at this point. But it just seems like they're trying to figure out really what their purpose is. And how to move forward given the events that happened in December, because it really was a very unfortunate situation in the meeting. And I think they're, some of the things that they were discussing, and I know we talked about it in this meeting, that it really wasn't the right purpose for, because it became much more personal.
Yes.
in the commission, and really we're here to serve the town. So I think the direction there has to be worked on, and there has to be a clear purpose, mission, to what they're doing. So hopefully they can figure that out. If they contact me to interview, I'm happy to speak with them, but I have not heard anything yet. So that's the status right now. I think basically they're trying to figure out their identity as a commission, and then what the next steps are, because apparently there's a lot of controversy, and I get it. I mean, diversity, inclusion, all of that, equity, it can be a hot topic depending
Yeah.
on the people that are involved and how they facilitate it. And I also think there was a huge group of people. It was like at least 20 people on these meetings. So it just seemed like, how do you control that? Especially on a Zoom meeting. So we'll have to see where it goes, but that's the status currently.
Okay. Thank you for that update. As usual, we'll keep that as a bullet point in the agenda going forward so that you always have the ability to reach out, make comment, and update us on that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Next, Linda, I'm going to put you on the hot seat. Special Ed update, Parents Advisory Council. Have you had any contact with anybody?
No, I know that there was a taping recently. I know that Courtney has, we certainly have corresponded, but she hasn't reached out lately. I don't think anything is going on that she needs assistance with. She certainly has all of my information. I haven't heard from her at all.
Okay. I do, as a special needs mom, do check the CPAC's Facebook page on a regular basis, and I am forwarding stuff when I feel it's appropriate to post to our Facebook page.
Right.
If I miss something or you feel I should have posted it, can you be my second in terms of set of eyes to let me know and say, Phyllis, this is posted. Will you please put it on our Facebook page as well?
Of course.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I will, like with the Committee on Diversity and Inclusion, I will keep that as a bullet point so that you can always update us without issue. Next comes to my little love, our Ability Assistance Program. We have got 2 shows booked, and we also discussed last time guests going into next season. Our show this Saturday is going to be with Town Manager Melissa Rodriguez. She and I, we're both kind of busy, so we've been having a hard time trying to meet in person to do the normal pre-taping conversations that I would normally have with our guests prior to. So I asked her to send me an email of things she'd like to talk about. I'd like to put that out there for you guys to see if there's anything specific you'd like me to talk to her in return about. I'm just going to read you the email as is. She wants to talk about some things that she's doing to make town meeting more accessible, including Braille warrants. She's working with the state to get a sign language interpreter since we will not have screens this year. I suspect, I wonder if we're going to be outside again this year because based upon that, but I've been harping on getting an ASL interpreter for how many years now? So I'm glad we have somebody who's pushing that for us. I'd also like to talk about a potential partnership between the Commission and the Council on Aging to talk on a community needs assessment. And work with them regarding some AARP issues. And she wants it to be age-friendly and inclusive. She also wants to be able to talk about COVID vaccination sites and the state's vaccination program for homebound residents. I'm going to open up the floor. Jeff, Stacy, Linda, are there any topics you think should be brought up during the meeting? This is really, we've been trying to get this show put together since she came into office, and COVID striking in the middle of all of this didn't help much.
I'm sorry. I had to step away for 1 second because my dog was barking. So I I had to. She was.
Where did I
barking.
lose you? Where did I lose you?
You stated that you were having a meeting. I'm sorry. That you were the town manager. I'm sorry. That you were having a meeting with the town manager.
Well,
And
she's
then-
going to be on our show on
Yes.
Saturday.
Yes. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. So the bullet points I had brought up that she wanted to talk about because we were having a hard time connecting
Hmm.
off time, to be able to talk for the pre-show meeting is she wants to talk about how she's trying to make town meeting more accessible,
Mm.
including Braille warrants. She's working with the state to get an ASL interpreter since we will not be having screens this year. My question becomes, if we're not having screens, does that mean we're anticipating an outside town meeting again this year, which I'm going to ask her.
Mhm.
That
Phyllis, I think that was mentioned that it was going to be outside.
Okay. Where did you hear that? Because I probably spaced.
I thought, where did I hear that?
I mean, it's a good assumption to make based upon COVID restrictions still in place.
It might have been something that Mark raised on Facebook.
Okay. I'll ask Melissa.
Okay.
It's, it's something that I can ask straight out. She's also, Linda, she's also looking at a potential partnership between us and the Council on Aging regarding community needs assessments, an AARP program related to building livable communities that engage residents of all ages and abilities. She wants the focus to be on age-friendly and inclusive to all residents. She also wants to talk about COVID vaccination sites and the state's vaccination program to vaccinate homebound residents. So what I had put out there before the dog interrupted you was any points of interest that anybody can think of that where I'm giving you guys the ability to participate in a pre-show taping at this point that you want to be raised.
The only thing I would say, Phyllis, is, and I don't know if that's the appropriate forum for it, you can certainly determine that, is I follow the North Andover moms a lot, and Stacy, maybe you can chime in here too. There's a real need for, or they're stating there's a real need, and I agree, for children 16 and over. There's not a lot for them, and because they've been cooped up from school, homeschooling mostly, it's a hybrid really, but
Right.
there's not a lot for them, and I'm just wondering if maybe she could provide some input there for that particular age category, 16 to 18, 16 and over, if you will.
Well, I know we've got the youth center.
I know. I know.
And there's probably an assumption where there is under most years that age category, typically either they're heavily involved in sports or they're working.
Right.
And unfortunately, we're in a weird situation right now.
Yeah. And they kind of have been left out, and it's especially now, it's been very difficult for them. So if you feel it's appropriate, if you could bring that up.
Yeah, I think in terms of, for activities, but also if we're looking at it from a mental health standpoint.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because so many may not be thriving in that environment. And also a lot of the school districts are going back like full time,
Right.
which is interesting that they're doing this only probably for a short period of time before the summer comes, and then we'll start back up in the fall. It just seems kind of odd. So I think for individuals for young people trying to adjust back and forth, there can be some mental health concerns for them. Again, some
Yeah.
people may be doing better in the hybrid environment or the virtual. I can speak for like my granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter is doing well with it, where my grandson did not. And going back to school for him, they're all up in New Hampshire, but
Yeah.
for him, you know, that's a better thing to be face to face. So there's a lot of struggling and frustration. So I think there's something to be addressed from that mental health point of view for teenagers, and that we don't want to forget that group.
Right. And that's a great point, Stacy. And also, Phyllis, that some of these age groups are very rigid with their restrictions. In other words, you might have a 16-year-old who really is at the capacity of a 10-year-old,
Yep.
and they won't let them in the programs because of their age, even though they really should be in those programs.
Right.
Which actually then begs the question of, we're not just talking about a disability issue, now we're talking about a civil rights issue.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it. I've personally experienced it with my own family, and I've seen it all over North Andover moms as an issue.
I'm typing notes here. Bear with me, folks. Or actually, you know what? Stacy, you're typing our notes, right?
Yep, I'm taking them as we speak, and then I will send them to you, if not tonight, tomorrow.
Fair enough. That
Phyllis, I
saves.
can just tell you just one more thing that I do.
Yeah.
I had a couple parents that had stated that they tried to enroll their children who were 16 or 17 into some of these programs, and they were just outright denied.
Was there
So,
any reasoning behind it?
just age, even though they stated that, you know, they do have, they're on the spectrum, and they did state that to the people that they were registering with, and they still would not allow them in.
Okay, I'm just using as an example so you can correct me if I'm wrong. A 16-year-old individual at a learning stage, let's say, of a 12-year-old individual socially, was not let into a 12-year-old level program or a 16-year-old level program?
12.
12. Okay, so we'd be looking at an accommodation then at that point.
Yes.
Was that program a town or state program, or was that something put together by a private entity?
The town.
It was a town program. If you can get me some more information, because that's something that, you know, this is when the attorney cap comes on and I have to be real careful. That's something that Melissa should really know about, because that then interferes with public accommodations issues, and I need to make her aware of that.
Okay, I will delicately reach out through North Andover Moms and get more information.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
And if they don't want to give you permission to give names and phone numbers
Right.
of themselves, if they'd be willing to at least tell me what program, if I could find out what program.
Yep.
Okay. The physical age of the child, not the child's name,
Right.
just the physical age of the child, the age of the child, that at the level that the age of the child is socially, emotionally working at, the disability itself that the child, whether it be autism or, you know, whatever it is, and a little description of what the program is. So don't just say karate, you know, just a little bit of a description type of a thing, so that if I can go to Melissa with those basic facts, it might be a school department issue, but at least she'll be able to direct us one way or the other.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else you guys can think of?
I don't have anything else.
Jeff, you've been silent.
I think that's a pretty full agenda for 45 minutes.
Oh, I can always bring it over 45 minutes. I've never had a problem with that.
I was just thinking
Uh,
We then have our June taping of youth center and other sports programs. once I get my show done and the youth, see if we could base there, Stacy or both of us maybe going in with cameras of the youth center. It'll be kind of interesting to see if we can do that, because for obvious reasons, we can't have the children in the youth center on camera without getting parental consent, and it would be a little difficult to necessarily get that parental consent on the spot. But to see if we could somehow get photos and video and then utilize that as part of our program when we had the program in June. And Stacy, I think you and I need to talk about that a little bit more offline.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, so we'll start working on that next week after we've got Melissa done up.
That makes
Okay.
sense.
All right. Looking forward, we had discussed, Linda, when we missed you last month. By the way, I hope you're feeling better.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. We had discussed a lineup of some programs we'd like to see in the fall. And we spoke, and Stacy, I'm pretty sure I've been CCing you on all of these emails.
Yes.
Okay. So we've got an email went out round robin to all of our state legislative representatives. And we got positive feedback from Christina Minacucci, from Trom Wynn, from Diana DiZoglio, and from Bruce Tarr. The big thing obviously will be what date we get and whether or not we can, who can get on there at what time. But they've all been positive in terms of wanting to, as a cohesive unit, talk. Excuse me. I believe I had sent around, Trom had sent me a link to the committee that would be most apt to hold the legislation that we would care most about. And did you folks get that? I'm pretty sure I sent it around.
I don't recall it.
All right, I'll try to dig it out again, because I have to find it for myself anyway. And if we could, over the next couple of months, pick out a couple of bills that we're interested in following, each one of us. And then as it runs closer, we can keep our eyes on that legislation, and then we can talk to them about that particular legislation. If at all possible, what I'd like to see is bills that might have been introduced by one of our 4 elected officials for the town, and have them talk specifically about that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
They work for us, so, why not have them talk about what they introduced on our behalf?
Yeah, so I found the email. It was forwarded. Let's see, there were a few emails here, but around the 26th of April. And so there is a link. You can find the bills relating to persons with disabilities here. So there is a link. There's a joint committee on children, families, and persons with disabilities, which I think I had mentioned a few months back that there was this committee that we should be looking at. And I'm spacing on the person who oversees that, but the person in question may also be a good guest. But if you want, I can forward this again to everybody, unless you want to do that.
No, Stacy, where you have eyes on it right now, if you could do a round robin.
I will do that.
Please and thank you.
I just checked on my email trail and I don't find it, so that'd be great to see it. Thank you.
Sure.
That's why we work together the way we do, Jeff. We round robin each other to keep us each all in our place and make sure we're all on the same page. Jeff, you had requested and given the suggestion of like a service dog facility or facility that trains service dogs, and you showed and you provided me information from 2 that you had found online. It was Needs, NEADS, and there was a second one. The second one, I did substantial research and I was not able to find an email address or anything, I signed up for their newsletter, and their newsletter had absolutely nothing to do with service dogs, so I've crossed them off the list. However, I was able to connect with Needs World-Class Service Dogs, and their thing is the same exact thing that everybody else is saying. It depends upon the date, but they're interested in possibly talking on the show, so it's something definitely in the mix. Congressman Moulton's office, I have not heard back from. So I will leave it at that. Were there any other areas that I'm totally spaced on of organizations or people we wanted to try to get on the show during the first quarter? i.e. the first half of the school year?
I'm not sure that there was anything else.
If you think of anything, just write it down, and at our next meeting, bring it up, because we're always talking about the program. So moving on, Mass Office of Disability outside dining. Did you guys get the materials that I emailed around?
Yes,
Yeah.
I found that
Okay.
Yes.
very interesting.
And they just sent me the recording today. I round robined that today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I think there's a lot of ambiguity about what the regulations are,
Mm-hmm.
especially with on-street dining and that sort of thing. And then we get into the issue of crossing grass areas and that sort of thing. So it's going to be a challenge for a lot of restaurants.
A lot of the on-street dining stuff really doesn't pertain to us. What I was mostly concerned about, we only have a handful of restaurants in town that are doing outside dining. I happened to notice when I passed by the 99, it looked like they were using picnic tables. Stacy, have you been able to get across the street at all?
I've only driven by it, but I think you're probably right that that's what they're using, which can be very restrictive.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I was there as well. Actually, I did go down and take a look at that, Phyllis. And the way it's set up is, I mean, it would be difficult. It was difficult for me to walk around it. The way it's set up, but not just the tables alone, but the actual tent, the way it's set
Okay.
up. There's not enough width for someone in a wheelchair to really get through that.
To safely navigate.
Right.
In addition to, it makes it difficult for somebody in a wheelchair, or even somebody who's not in a wheelchair who just has basic mobility issues, to be able to sit at a table, a picnic table in and of itself.
So I actually brought someone with me that has mobility difficulties, who's not in a wheelchair, just difficulty walking, and to see if they could navigate through and around there. And it was very difficult. He was at risk of falling. So
Okay. Thank you for doing that. And please thank whoever the person was who went with you.
I will.
And I will bring that up. And that's, I guess, is a good question then for me to then bring up to Melissa, whether it be on camera or off camera, to talk about these regulations, because I'm sure outside dining is probably going to maintain an effect even once COVID restrictions are removed, because a lot of people like it.
Mm-hmm.
Phyllis, within the town, who oversees those things? Is the building inspector?
I would think it would be the building inspector. That seems like the natural. Well, I think it would be the building inspector and the health inspector, because they're bringing food outside.
Yeah.
Both of which fall under the purview of the town manager.
Yeah.
So I might ask her. I think it would be appropriate for me to at least bring it up and ask her if they could, I can give her the same stuff I forwarded to you folks that the Mass Office of Disability did, and have her share it and maybe ask them to do spot checks. Not trying to get any of these restaurants in trouble, but I'd rather say if they're going to offer the opportunity, make sure that they're up to code.
Correct. Yeah. I know myself, I can't get into a picnic table. It's just too difficult for me, and so I'd have to request another seating arrangement.
And you shouldn't have to. That's part of what the Mass Office of Disability was saying. They should have, for lack of a better term, handicap seating
Yep.
available, and that it needs to be fully accessible. So like you were saying with the grassy areas, okay, some wheelchairs would have no problem getting through a grassy area, some would. And you can't make the assumption one way or the other. You have to make it fully accessible.
Yeah. People walking with either crutches or with a walker find it very difficult walking across grass areas.
Yep. What I am going to request is if anybody happens to go to a restaurant between now and Saturday that has outdoor dining and that isn't the 99, because we already got a full report card from Linda on that. Thank you very much. Drop me a text and let me know what restaurant, and even take a picture or two if you want that I can show Melissa, so that she has that in connection with. Because again, my goal, and I know everybody else's here goal, isn't to make life difficult on the restaurants. It's to make sure that they're accessible to our residents. Okay, now, does anybody have any more questions, comments, or concerns regarding the outside dining stuff that I sent around?
Nope.
No.
No.
Okay. I can do, if you'd like, if you haven't had the ability to view all of it, would you like me to keep this as a bullet point on the next agenda so that further discussion can be brought up?
I think that's advisable.
I agree.
I agree.
Awesome. I will do that. Okay, next, we have two gentlemen here, Mr. Daniel Beckley and Mr. John Michalek. Michalek, I am sorry.
Okay.
They're doing a study for Route 125. They reached out to me independently wanting to know my thoughts as chair of the commission, and I told them I didn't think it was appropriate to have just me participate in this because we each come to this commission from different points of view, and that although I chair a commission, I still work with a commission. So I offered them the ability to come onto the program or onto the meeting and to talk to us about it and give us the opportunity to talk to them as a group. So Daniel, John, I don't know who wants to go first.
Do you mind if I introduce the project and then, John, you can ask questions?
Sure.
Great. The town received a grant from Mass Development to do a corridor study of Route 125, specifically from where it intersects with Sutton Street to the Haverhill line. And we're looking at all sorts of things in the area, zoning, infrastructure, accessibility, which is one of the reasons we're interested in your guys' input, as well as transportation, traffic safety, and things along those lines. We're in the early stages. We've been interviewing people with interests, residents, businesses, anyone with, a specific connection to the corridor, or people who have expertise in these areas. And we, went out and did site visits this past weekend to, talk to people who live in the area, and basically are just still in the early public engagement stages. And hopefully out of this study, we will have a better sense of, we'll be able to have a plan, a vision for basically the future of transportation, infrastructure, and zoning in the area.
Mr. Beckley, if I can ask, because of the fact that I'm one of those people who don't pay attention to street names, I just know where I'm going. Can you give me some landmarks along the area that you're talking about so that I can get a frame of mind as to where along 125 we're talking about?
Right. So the Sutton Street intersection is the China Blossom Airport intersection near where the new
Okay.
senior center is going, and then running north, which direction is that? Northeast-ish to the Haverhill line. That's
Okay. To let me know that that's the starting point, I can mentally now see where it's going to. Okay.
So that's all I have. I didn't say this. I'm the staff planner for the town, and we're working with Niche Engineering and Inns Associates. Emily and Innes isn't here, but Innes. But John from Niche Engineering is here, and I'll let him take it away.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. So I'm John Mikulak. I'm a senior project manager with Niche Engineering. And as Dan mentioned, we're working with the town and Mass Development on this Route 125 corridor study. We've assembled a team from Niche Engineering and Innes Associates of transportation engineers and planners. We're looking at this corridor study from two different perspectives. One is from a transportation and accessibility component, and the other one being a zoning component, which is Emily Innes's area of expertise. So what we've been doing is meeting, as Dan said, with various stakeholders along the corridor, getting as much input as we can to help formulate some concepts and recommendations for the corridor. And we've identified, your commission as one of the stakeholders and would really value some of your input along the corridor. I can start out with a couple of the questions that we typically have been asking some of the stakeholders along the corridor, and then would love any input related to transportation, circulation, accessibility, and feel free to offer any opinions you have on zoning and land use as well.
Thank you.
So, as I mentioned, we're asking people to give us some of the observations that they've seen related to, traffic circulation, congestion, roadway safety, and safety as it applies not only to vehicles, but also to pedestrians, bicycles, and transit users. So we'd welcome any input that, that the commission has or any of the members have on concerns or areas where you think that this section of the corridor could be improved upon.
We've got two people who are realtors on this. Who wants to go first, Linda or Jeff?
The addition of the sewer line in that area is going to be a great improvement. However, regarding just accessibility, I think that there's so little sidewalk running in that area that we need to have sidewalk along the entire length, right to the Haverhill line. I'm sure that with Amazon going in,
Yes.
in the Lucent property, that there were going to be people who are going to be walking that area. So coming down the hill by Holt Road, there definitely needs to be sidewalk there, as well as a bike path. The traffic along there is that can be a speedway as people accelerate up that hill.
Yep.
From the traffic lights at the base of the hill and going up to almost to the Butcher Boy Plaza. It seems like that become a raceway. So we need some way that we can slow traffic down there and provide a bicycle path as well as sidewalks in that particular area.
It's also going to get even more congested because we've got that hybrid residential / commercial facility that's opening up.
Correct.
Right. I agree wholeheartedly, Jeff. Especially there's a new restaurant going in there. There's a whole lot going in there, but the sidewalks in general are key for, I think that's a huge point to bring up. And yes, lots of accidents happening in front of that butcher boy. So it does, they seem to fly by there. If there is a way that we could slow that traffic down a little there, that would be very helpful as well. I totally agree.
I will also interject, and I had this issue when they were doing the Mass Ave 125 intersection update by Atkinson. Is that if you're going to have sidewalks, if you're going to have pedestrians, if you're going to have bicyclists, you need pedestrian lights, not just crosswalks, but actual lights. So that if, for example, you have somebody who's going to be at that new residential / commercial facility and they're going to walk to Butcher Boy, we need to make sure that they have ample opportunities to safely cross 125 across the street. And having just a painted crosswalk, while that might work in the city where you expect those things to pop up every 5 seconds, in a community like North Andover, people are not going to be as eye-born for that. And they need something a little bit more because, let's face it, nobody wants to hurt anybody else. And the walkers and the bicyclists need the protection that they need, and the drivers need the signaling that they need so that everybody is protected.
Just to jump on that, Phyllis, I agree. And also, if you look at the one that they put in front of, on 114, in front of Merrimack College, which, you know, they're going across the street to the apartments, I think that it almost justifies for that new development to have something like that as well, for them to be able to cross with those flashing lights, with that amount of visibility for drivers.
Yeah, good point, Linda. I think that as that development fills up, there's going to be a lot of people going across the street to the 2 or 3 restaurants that are over in the old McClay's Plaza there, as well as walking down 125 to the other restaurants and to the Butcher Boy Plaza.
Right.
And I can say, I don't think that there, for the amount of traffic we're going to see with that new facility, the new hybrid facility moving in there, you know, that area of 125 is a huge, what's the best way to put this? Alternative route is probably the best way for me to put it, for people who are trying to traverse up or down 495, especially during commuter hours. And as somebody who has commuted in and out of Boston from North Andover, it's not an easy commute to begin with. And you're fighting against issues with 495, you're fighting with issues with 114, with 93, eventually 28. You know, it's that area will get even more so congested when you're talking between the new hybrid community and now adding somebody like Amazon. You know, that all requires motor vehicles, and I don't think 2 lanes in each direction is going to be sufficient in order to hold all of that populace without making people go absolutely batty behind the wheel. And the last thing we want is drivers out there who are going to be in such an angry state that it's going to cause negative function.
I would agree with that. I think that can be very, very difficult. And I agree with the 495 because I do that all the time, where I use the 125 corridor as opposed to 495 to get to Haverhill at least, or back to try to circumvent some of the traffic there. But now I think with that new complex, that is going to be an issue because now the traffic is just going to increase.
Yep.
And I think, and it is like a speedway there. I've seen that happen. You know, so something has to be done because I think it can be very unsafe.
Well,
Oh, we-
the issue too on, is Holt Road, where you have the trash trucks going, in and out of Holt Road. That can be a dangerous intersection at that point. I think that should be looked closely at.
John, never thought you'd get this much feedback, did you?
No, this is all great. I just to add that we did notice that the sidewalk connectivity is definitely lacking. And as we scheduled the site meeting that we had last weekend, what we wanted to do was, gather a group and walk the corridor. And then we realized that there wasn't really a safe way to do that. So what we did instead was we set 3 separate meeting locations and parking lots where we could look at different sections of the corridor, safely without having to walk along the road. So we definitely see that there's that lack of connectivity that's needed, and some of the people who attended that site meeting with us said that some of them felt comfortable, trying to cross the street, and others said that they wouldn't cross the street. So that being said, are there any other specific locations that you think we would need crossings? I know you mentioned, that we should have crossings at certain locations that are pedestrian signal controlled or control the vehicles so that people can cross safely. Just from your experience, do you think we need to have them spaced certain distances for accessibility reasons, or just at specific locations where we expect people to want to cross? I don't know if you had any specific thoughts about.
I think that's probably more realistic, John, is to have them at the specific locations. I can think of the Butcher Boy Plaza, going from the Butcher Boy Plaza across the street to the Casablanca restaurant. That's a difficult thing there. I know that when Casablanca was busy and they had a parking issue, they had people parking further down the street. And so there was no place to walk. You had to walk in the street in order to get to the restaurant. But I think that if you had crosswalks, pedestrian crosswalks with the proper lighting at the Butcher Boy Plaza, at the new hybrid apartment complex, certainly down by where the Amazon plant is going to be.
You know what I would also suggest? Reach out to the Mass Office of Disability and see, they might actually have regulations regarding what needs to be done regarding space and regarding, based upon what's in a particular area. The one thing I will request, I know it's state regulation now, but people don't necessarily realize it. But when you're going to have a pedestrian ramp at a crosswalk, you need to keep in mind that the buttons need to have both audio and visual, and that the ramps themselves have also, Jeff, the proper term for it. I call it the yellow bumps that they put on there. Do you know what I'm talking
Speed
about?
bump? Oh, yeah.
Detectable warning panels.
Yeah.
Yes, so that somebody who's walking, thank you. It shows you how ignorant I am. So that if somebody's walking who is not visually able to see that it's a decline, that they have the warning there that they're about to enter an incline or a decline.
John, has there been any discussion about the possibility of an additional train stop at the Amazon plant? There used to be a train stop there, and that might help alleviate some of the vehicle traffic going to the Amazon plant.
Yeah, that was something that the town and the community development brought up. We talked a little bit about it while we were standing outside of the old Lucent building. Definitely something that we will mention in our final report. Not sure that, this report will actually spearhead something like that, but, this is the report where we come up with recommendations, identify issues, and then hopefully it'll help, begin other conversations about what can be done out there, maybe ultimately lead to an actual project where we can implement some of these improvements. But it was talked about as it would be a good idea. I think we have to look a little bit more about the proximity of the wetlands and how somebody could actually get from the tracks over to the new Amazon facility. But I don't know if Dan has talked any more with Andrew or Jean, but they seem to have had some of those preliminary conversations about that. And
Oh, good.
we'll definitely incorporate that into the report as something that should be considered. But
I can tack on to that a little bit. In the initial Amazon discussions, part of the agreement was going to be that Amazon would do a feasibility study for putting a station there. That didn't make the final cut. I don't know why. It was before my time. But it is a 10 to 15 year goal in the master plan to investigate and potentially pursue a train station there.
Would that be for consumer use, or would that be for freight use?
Consumer use.
Okay.
That would be MBTA.
Speaking of public transportation, again, being a girl who's worked in Boston most of her life, I feel when I'm driving around, I'm seeing the same numbered bus for Merrimack Valley Transportation Authority. Am I getting the nomenclature right?
Mm-hmm.
And, I would think more public transportation that is also handicapped accessible at actually marked stops that maybe even have a canopy of some sort where people can stand, because I think more people might be apt to use public transportation if it seemed more what's the word I'm looking for?
Friendly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep, that's a great suggestion. Was something that had been mentioned, and I believe the conversations that we had with the MBRTA was that they would only consider stops if there were actual bus stops where the bus could pull out of the travel way. So
Which makes sense, because otherwise you're then just adding to the congestion.
Right. So I think right now the only stop is scheduled for the Amazon facility, if I remember correctly. But that's something that, we will look at as part of the corridor study, and, recommend that, further analysis be made as to where stops would make sense if those were to be integrated into any roadway improvement project.
Fantastic. John, did you have any other questions for us?
No, I think we covered a lot of the transportation type issues. Just some general zoning or land use questions. If anybody has any thoughts as to what they would like to see the corridor become, part of our recommendations to the town will be to try to maybe make some recommendations to change zoning to encourage different types of use that they may want to see along the corridor. For instance, some people enjoy the mixed use that Princeton Properties has right now, where there's the restaurant and the apartments all in one area, so people won't have to travel too much. Just wondering if there were any thoughts related to that anybody on the commission has.
I'll chime in. I don't want to zone out our current small businesses. If we're going to be doing anything with zoning, our current small businesses that are already along that corridor, I'd like to protect their business as much as possible. Because we find a lot of times where we rezone things and all of a sudden your favorite pizza joint can't be there anymore because it's been rezoned as part of a quote unquote modernization project. And now you've got a small business owner who no longer has a business and you've lost jobs.
I agree with that. Also, I mean, I think, obviously there's the mixed use property that is there, and I'm sure that's great for some people. I mean, I've been living in North Andover now for like 16 years, 17 years. And even though this is not specifically related to disability, I would just hate to see that whole area get built up too much more.
Yeah.
There's a lot of open land. I think that's something that's actually quite nice about this area, that it sort of has this appeal of both suburban and a little bit of, rural might be stretching it, but there's open spaces. And to see a lot of that get built up more and more, it's like, it's a little worrisome to me, like how much of that is going to happen. So even though it may not be specifically commission related, I figured I might as well just throw that out there as part, and that's also a way to protect the businesses that are there now. Because like you said, Phyllis, we don't want to zone them out, but I also don't want the whole place to be concrete and full of tons of businesses where it becomes like mini mall alley. I think
exactly.
it'll lose its charm.
Yeah, because we are North Andover. We're not Somerville.
No, exactly. So that is a concern.
And I grew up in Framingham, which was the world of mini malls back in the 80s.
Still is.
But it was also the largest town in the continental United States before it went city.
Right.
So we had the space there. North Andover is not Framingham.
Right.
And we have to keep that in mind. I just
want to make sure we keep something here.
Yeah.
While I understand, we want to support businesses, and in particular small businesses and accessibility. We don't want to lose, because you see, oh, it's open land. Here's a chance to develop something that can kind of spur out of control, or spiral out of control, I should say.
And that also affects the wildlife.
Exactly.
I'm not a tent camper kind of person. Most people who know me know that I'm scared to go out camping. But the fact of the matter is it's nice to still drive by someplace and see a bunny hop and know that the bunny's not going to be, road rage food.
Right.
Or to know that there's someplace for the deer to go, or, and walk around freely and safely. And that also gives our children the opportunity then to be someplace safe that, they can experience what it looks like outside of a glass bubble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, North Andover, and not specifically that area. I mean, as you go in the opposite direction, you have Harold Parker State Park, and you have, there are a lot of really lovely just local hiking trails, but even traveling that corridor to Haverhill, again, I would just hate to see that become another kind of wasteland of business. I shouldn't say wasteland of businesses, but just it becomes a concrete jungle kind of thing. And I just, because, even seeing that mixed, complex, which is all fine and good. We need housing. Business is important, but how much is too much? So I just wanted to put that piece out there.
And don't we also have a study going on in town? The is it the Royal Crest?
Yeah, I think so.
The big facility across the street from Merrimack College along 114.
Yes.
Where they're looking to do a study there to completely rebrand that area and make it more town friendly, and then a little bit more of that, also that hybrid living space where it's supposed to be residential and commercial. And they want to throw in some parks there, and and some lovely areas that are more accessible to the town as opposed to just to the folks who live there, which is all wonderful and nice. But if you got a mini mall here and a mini mall there, all of a sudden you've got 10,000 little mini malls and nobody can move anywhere.
Agreed.
Yep, that was a great point. And, we heard a similar concern with what happens to Barker's Farm in the future. So that's a consideration, that can be taken with the zoning recommendations to preserve open space, whether it's a certain amount of open space either behind developments or in front of developments, so you can still see that green space from the roadway.
And it's not just being able to see the green space as much as to protect the fish and the wildlife that might have natural habitats there.
Right.
You
Exactly.
know, not
The many turkeys that we have in our beautiful town. The friendly turkeys that go up to drive.
No turkeys are friendly.
They are.
Hey, I've
So-
seen many turtles cross the road, and we have to avoid those for me. But no, in all seriousness, you know, I don't want to beat a green tree, but the fact of the matter is if we take too much of that away, then we're talking about green issues. Where are we reducing our oxygen supply in town? Where we have industrial, you know, major industrial things happening again in town. You know,
Right.
looking forward that far. You know, it's not maybe a disability issue per se now, but looking ahead in the future, what does that do then for people who are on oxygen issues, or asthma, or anything where the quality of oxygen needs to be protected? If you know, there's a reason why some people choose to move out to the suburbs from the city when they encounter certain types of medical issues, specifically when it comes to being able to breathe, is because there's too much smog, there's not enough green, there's not enough clean oxygen where they're at. So they move out of the city to get more of that. And if we're taking that away, then we're actually sending them someplace where they may not want to be anymore.
And I guess just to add one more point to that, the more it gets built up, the more you may have noise pollution as well.
Yes.
So that's something we don't want. I don't want to see happen. I didn't move out here for that. I mean, I lived in Boston for several years. I did live in Somerville. It was all fine and good, but I moved out here for the lifestyle that's here. And honestly, to have something that when I come home at night, it's a little bit quiet. And granted, I don't live on that stretch of road specifically. I'm further down on 125, but that would be problematic, I think, for a lot of people too. So noise pollution is a concern, and that can cause a lot of chaos. So
I mean, I can hear it from my house, Stacy. You literally live on the other side of the fence.
I know.
Can you hear the train at certain times
Oh
of night?
yeah.
Yeah.
You can hear it, at night. I mean, I've kind of gotten used to that, but how much more? Because I've lived in the city. And if that's what you want, that's what you're choosing. But when you move someplace else, you're again making a choice. Something starts to build up around you. You don't, despite town meetings or whatever, you may not have a choice in what comes in.
Exactly.
And then that can expand and become very problematic. So we just want to make sure we're keeping things, while, I support progress, not an issue there, but how is progress happening? And is anybody being damaged by that progress? Like, I think we have to think of all of those pieces. What does that look like for the community as a whole?
Great point. Thank you.
Linda, Jeff, anything else to add?
No.
No, I'm just trying to think if there are residential properties down in that stretch. I'm just trying to imagine it, because I know further up, Stacy, where you're talking about, where they made the road wider, they took down a whole slew of trees there.
Yeah.
And I do have to say that it does affect the noise factor on that street that abuts it.
That was an adjustment to see that.
And it affects the values of their properties as well. So I don't know, John, if there's actually, in the stretch that you're referring to, if there's residential homes where there's a space of trees that would be considered to come down in that specific area.
But it's a good point. I mean, there are some neighborhoods that are just off of the road, and if these properties in between the road and the neighborhoods happen to get cleared, then
yeah.
So that's a good point to preserve that tree canopy and buffer between any residents.
Okay. And something to also keep in mind, when you have more residential facilities that are more apartment related, you tend to also have a lot of younger families, people who are just starting their families out, in addition to maybe elderly people who have downsized. And then the question becomes, how are we making sure that the kids have someplace safe to be, that they're not chasing a ball out into 125?
And John, the reason I brought it up is coincide with our committee, because that particular space that they did clear, there is an autistic child on that street where that noise factor does affect them differently than it did prior. So that's the
Thank you for
reason.
bringing that up, Linda.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will drive by those signs that say autistic child in neighborhood,
Right.
and they have no idea what they're dealing with.
The noise really does affect them a lot.
All of a sudden, you horns being passed, intersection. That's just going to do all sorts of damage to whoever's in that particular range of motion.
Right.
Okay, yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Anybody else?
Nope.
Nope.
No,
John, if anybody has a question or wants to get in touch with you after the fact, where they sit back and go, gee, I wish I had mentioned, I believe I have your email on one of those emails. Can I share that email with the commission?
Certainly, yep. You can email me. You can email Dan or anybody else in the planning department, Jean or Andrew. But certainly, yep. Feel free to reach out to us. We're conducting, as Dan said, these interviews, and we had the site meeting where we encouraged people to come out last weekend and give us some feedback. And we're in the process, probably in the next month or so, of compiling our draft report that we'll be submitting to the town. So if you think of anything in the next few weeks, certainly feel free to reach out to any of us.
Daniel, let me ask you, because you work for the town. The commission is allowed to still maintain their independent Facebook page. Is there anything that the town has put out there on the town's website or the town's page that I can copy to our Facebook page to alert people who would follow that page of to what's going on in case they want to reach out to anybody?
Yes, I can send that to you.
Please and thank you. Because I don't want us to be the sole audience for people who, disability is a huge umbrella.
Certainly.
And to give other members of our community to do that. So gentlemen, I'd like to thank you both for coming to our meeting. You're more than welcome to stay until the end. We've got a few other bullet points to take up, or leave, whatever suits your fancy.
Great. Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks a
We
lot.
appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. It's just the four of us. I see three of you on the screen and I forget I'm there too. Okay, so future meeting schedules.
So June.
We do not have a June meeting. Do we want to have a June meeting?
We probably should, to talk about the show for June at least, and see where we're at with, upcoming
With the
shows for
fall,
'Cause we can
especially.
take July and August as a break. I think that's kind of needed.
Yeah, well, that's typically how we've done
Yeah.
it. Okay, our June show is going to be on the 26th.
Ooh,
That's late.
that's okay.
Do we want to say, in order to keep it consistent, June 30th, or is that too close to the 4th of July for everybody's liking?
Hold on, I just lost the calendar here. And maybe instead of the 30th, do we want to do the 16th or the 23rd, just to we give ourselves a buffer between this meeting and the next, but it's not so far out.
Well, it'll just be before. The only thing is, it'll be before we have our June show.
Right.
And I thought you wanted to try to do it after our June show.
It doesn't have to be after. I was thinking before anyway. That way, if there was anything we needed to discuss before the show or preparation,
Okay, then
I think that would be fine.
I'm looking at my calendar right now, and I can't do the 2nd.
What about
Um,
am I into June here? It's
The only June Wednesday I cannot do is the 2nd.
I can do the 9th, the 16th, or the 23rd right now.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yep.
So do we want to do like flat in the middle, the 16th? Would that work for people?
Works for me.
Sure.
That's okay.
And that way we have some planning time, because I figure if there are questions or anything that come up for the show, we can talk about it, but also make sure that if there are the ideas or also the scheduling for the fall, we can kind of hammer those pieces out.
Yeah.
And also talk about the outdoor dining if anything else comes up around that. So I figure that's good timing.
No, that's perfect. All right. So Wednesday, June 16th,
6:30?
we're going at 6:30.
Yep.
All right. Now let's look ahead to September.
Oh, yeah. You can't think that far ahead.
All right. I'm telling you now, the 8th and the 15th are off the calendar.
Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm the same as you.
That's why I said we're taking, please, between the 4 of us. Come on.
Do we want to
Who could show up
do,
between the 4 of us today?
like the 22nd of September?
I can do the 22nd.
Yeah, I can as well.
Yeah.
Okay, September 22nd. Okay, October. Ooh. So there's maybe the 13th or the 20th.
I have pretty much any Wednesday in October right now is open.
Yeah, same here. What works
we did-
for?
Where we did smack dab in the middle in September, do we want to do the same in October?
Yeah,
Sure.
The 13th?
sure. And then November, the 10th or the 17th.
All right. 17. All right. When's Thanksgiving? I want to make sure we get people.
That is the 25th and 26th.
Okay. So it'd be the week before if we did the 17th, or 2 weeks before if we did the 10th.
I'm open either one right now.
I'm leaning towards the 10th.
So
I would say the 10th.
Sure.
Okay.
all right, November 10th it is. And then December, oof, definitely have trouble thinking that far ahead.
Notice how bad I'm making you guys think. We're already
Ugh.
looking at.
I
We're
just
already
want to
looking at the
enjoy
end of the year.
summer right now. All right, so for December the 8th or the 15th, I would not go beyond, or there's also the 1st, the 8th. So I'm thinking the 8th or the 15th.
I'm thinking the 8th or the 15th
Yeah.
as well, because the 1st, I don't know when.
Because the week after is Christmas.
I think the first falls smack dab in the middle of Hanukkah. So I think
The 15th.
the 15th personally.
How's that for everybody else?
Yep.
Okay.
Wednesday, December 15th. All right, cool.
All right.
Excellent.
So we've got that.
Mhm.
Now I said I would put it back on for public comment. Linda, you weren't able to be here, so we wanted to make sure we took an actual vote again when you were here. Every year I'm supposed to put it out there and see if anybody besides me would like to be chair of the commission, because the Board of Selectmen likes to know that everybody is given an opportunity to lead who chooses to do so. So I'm going to put it out there. Does anybody else want my job?
No.
No, thank you.
I got got enough on my plate. Actually, a better way of putting that is you are doing a fantastic job, which is true. I'm not just paying lip
That's
service.
exactly true.
It's a tough act to follow. You can't do
Can't
it.
fill those shoes.
Hey, don't make fun of my 10 wide feet. Hey guys, I can't do what I do without you, so it's a team effort. Also, we have an open spot at a minimum one on the commission. We have had a young lady put in an application who will probably need to be continuing to do meetings remotely once we do go in person, because if she ends up getting the commission spot, but it would bring somebody on board who would be a recent high school, current college graduate, current college student who would be studying special education.
Nice.
Oh, great.
Excellent.
So we have had her put in the application. I asked her if she wanted my job when she came on the commission, and her response was, "No, thank you, mommy."
We know who it is.
Exactly. Well, I asked her. She's 18 now. She can serve. But the application has not been moved on yet by the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
The other thing also is check and see when your seat expires. If your seat is expiring this year, I hope you want to stay on board, reach out to the Board of Selectmen and ask them to re-up you. My seat expires this year, next month, I think. And I've already told them I want to keep my seat. So I'm not saying who wants my job and then I'm running in the other direction.
That's a relief. I don't
wouldn't-
think mine expires till next year. I think I'm 2022. I'll have to check.
Actually, I think if we go onto the town's website, let me go on there.
Oh, excuse me.
Who am I keeping up?
It would be me.
All right, I'll give you that.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'll give that to you.
I'm
You
doing
got
2 jobs right now because one of my directors is on maternity leave, so I'm doing her work and mine. I'm just like, I can't wait for her to come back. I hope she doesn't
I'll
leave
give
us
you that.
just for her kid.
All right. What do they have us under? Commission. All right. They still have us as Commission on Disability, but we know that warrant is going to be changed. Oh, wow. They posted onto their page, on the town's website. If you got a second screen, go take a look at this, guys. If you go onto northandoverma.gov and look at Commission on Disability, they have our show with the pack right on the website.
Oh, sweet.
They still have Dawn Stewart and Nancy Murphy on here. It's my understanding that Nancy had already resigned.
Right.
I don't know if Dawn, I haven't heard from Dawn. So officially the people who are up for being put back on the commission are myself, Dawn, and Nancy. Stacy, you're right. You're next year in 2022.
Yeah.
Jeff and Linda, you both have got another 2 years. You're in 2023. And Terry Brown is also on from 2022. You know what? I'm gonna have a conversation with Melissa regarding that because I wanna see that we have people who are able to participate to the best extent possible, especially where we now have the ability to do things via phone, via Zoom, and make that as accessible as possible. So, okay. Yeah, because I guess my term expires at the end of June, so the end of next month. And like I said, yes, I've already told them I want to stay. So I'm not saying who wants my job, and by the way, figure it out anyway. I think we lost Jeff.
Uh-oh.
We still have 3 people, so we can still officially keep the meeting rolling, and give him the opportunity to come on board if, in fact, I'll send him a quick text and ask him if he's coming on or if he had to step away. Oh, he's had a power issue with his computer. Okay.
Oops.
I'm going to text him saying we're about to close the meeting then.
Yep, makes sense.
I just did to power issue and then come back on board and go, where'd everybody go?
Psych. I'm getting slap happy now. That's not good.
All right. Is there anything? Oh, Jeff just rejoined. Excellent.
Yay.
Yay. Is there anything else regarding public comment that I didn't put in the agenda? Because yeah, you guys are commission members, but you're also a member of the public that you wanted to bring on board.
Nope.
No.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I've got the taping. I'm going to miss you, Stacy.
Thanks. No one
I
needs
got
to see me right now, so. But thanks.
You from our friend Barbara, you're always gorgeous. Don't worry about
I
it.
appreciate it.
From one Jersey girl to another. But all right, so we've got that. We've got our next meeting on June, what did we say, June 13th? Is that it?
Yep.
I closed my calendar already.
No, June 16th.
June 16th. I was close. So
I'll send you the notes soon. So
thank you. I know. So I'd like to make a motion to close today's meeting and reconvene again at 6:30 on Wednesday, June 16th remotely. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With no opposition, I'm closing out this meeting and see y'all next month. Stay safe.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.